obesity or to using your own inspiring story and personal example to do it. Makes sense. Governor Branstad has done his healthiest state, Iowa's a healthiest state initiative and other things. But when it comes down to questions of expanding Medicaid or coming up with the Iowa Wellness Plan, if you were elected governor...
Well, let me say this. Since my goal is to end poverty, my goal is not to expand the welfare state. See, this has been part of the confusion on the part of Democrats. We advocate for more welfare and then we individually profit, whether it's slum landlords or developers or institutions that oppose things like ID for food stamps. Let's take this feigned compassion for the poor. When you don't require ID to use a food stamp, you allow a black market to exist where those dollars that are generated through the sale of those food stamps are now translated into purchasing alcohol, tobacco, gambling services, and illegal drugs. Now, our newspapers don't accept any gambling, liquor, tobacco, or sexually oriented advertising. We're not out there moralizing. But the fact is that we now are funding chaos. That money used for illegal drugs then creates an industry in the inner city which contributes to urban violence and urban chaos and disruption and family destruction. Now, a lot of that could be headed off simply by saying, here's my ID, the same way as if I go to Hy-Vee to cash a check. It's not a lack of compassion, it's accountability. And two of the biggest opponents to that accountability are Linda Upmeyer and Craig Paulson, who are a stump and a log in the field that is preventing the growth of this state. You know, along with some other Republicans whose hypocrisy is choking us. Now, there are some good Republicans out there, and I've worked with some of them. But we must get to the point where this feigned compassion for the poor is identified what it is, a perpetual state of exploitation that should be ended by really investing in education, by really investing in job training, by investing in employment, by investing in a good way for health, by investing in things like justice and mental health.
So those are long-term strategies. In the meantime, some people that are affected now that have their health concerns that are being,
which ones
accessed.
are long-term strategies?
That's what I'm asking. That with solving poverty, moving this way, they seem years off.
In 10 weeks, I got off medication.
And so is that? I guess I'm just trying to.
In fact, that's how Jack Hatch got involved in the health thing. He was the chair. You look at the record. He was the chair of the economic development for the Senate, but he was our chief legislative liaison. I said, Jack, you need to start caring about health. So we started pushing him involved in health, and then he developed a passion for it. Now I'm proud of it.
So would you continue Iowa's health and wellness plan as it's been negotiated between the governor and the legislature, or would you be calling for changes to that?
Well, Jonathan Narcisse's strength as a public servant has been that he thoroughly examines the data, so he knows what he's talking about, so he can make a responsible decision. I don't know enough about that to say what I would do now, because that's not my greatest priority. The very first thing I would do as governor would be to pull together or to commission a process for saving our public pensions, especially in light of the recent federal ruling. People who taught our kids, who made our streets safe and went into burning buildings, they deserve to be protected. So that would be the very first thing I would do. So I don't know what my answer is, because I need to examine that and study it. And also, before I make decisions, I talk to people who know what they're talking about. It's hard to have an intelligent discussion about the Affordable Health Care Act, because most people are advocates. Instead of objectively commenting, they basically just utter their political position. And so they, as governor, I would actually have the gravitas to get people who would sit down and discuss the pros and cons, help us to understand what we should keep and what we should get out of or opt out of, and we would be able to come to a responsible decision. And I think that's how the governor's supposed to do, not just Google and pop off the top of their head and something.
Right.
I hope that's I'm not trying to get evasive in this.
I mean, to what degree do you think that's what Governor Branstad was doing by not doing but not doing a knee-jerk expansion of
No,
of
I
Medicaid.
think that Governor Branstad was doing what he does exceptionally well. Talks on both sides of the issues, panders to his base while he plans on doing what he's gonna do. And I think that while he was telling the Tea Parties and conservatives, I'm gonna stand up to Obamacare, I think he was just basically talking about which one of his buddies were gonna get that $50 to $60 million to manage the site or whatever. That's been his mode of operations. I think he knew day one he was gonna opt in. It's sort of like when President Obama did the stimulus and all these Republicans were like, "Roar," and then they wrote private letters to get cut in like Paul Ryan. That's disgusting politics. You know what? I've traveled the state several times. In fact, since 2010, I've traveled the state twice, 299 county tours. I've had a booth at the state fair. Fortunately, it was across from the Varied Industry, in the Varied Industry building, across from the lottery and the restrooms. That's massive traffic. And this is what I've come to realize. Iowans are amazing people. They're awesome. They're good, decent, honorable people. They're trusting and naive. But they're really good people. And they deserve better leadership. They deserve leadership that understands them, could empathize with them, and doesn't just exploit them. You know, that's my strength. I tell people, I'm not a quarterback or a running back. I'm a tackle. I blow open holes, I protect the quarterback. I make it possible for an honest member of the administration to tell me about a contractor who's stealing from us. That's what I do. When I ran for the school board, I said, you know what, I'm a parent, I'm not an educator. Like when Senator McKinley and the Republicans offered me my own school to back off education reform, I said, I'm not an educator, I'm a parent and a taxpayer. But I said, you know what, if you want to understand John Narcisse, watch the movie Magnificent Seven. Joe Brenner wasn't a mortician. It's like, what, this guy can't get buried in Blue Hill? Oh, heck no. And then Steve McQueen came along and said, give me a shotgun. And they drove the body up there and buried it. And then I said, well, going running for governor is like going to that village where they had honest farmers who could not fight bad men. You know, I used to box. I was decent. 17 boxed in the Denver and D.C. area. I don't like politics because I get beat up, have people say bad things about me. It hurt my first marriage. But I'm good at it. And to me, the thing that symbolizes my involvement in politics as much as anything was an incident that happened in 2011 in January when I was going to testify on education at the Capitol. I pulled off East 6 and there was a semicircle of cars idling. And so I got out of the car to find out what the problem was. And there was a young African girl in her bra and panties on the ground in this freezing weather with two men standing over her. Now, I was wearing my dad's double-breasted pinstripe suit. I finally lost enough weight to fit in. It's my favorite suit in the entire world. And I wanted to wear it today, but I forgot to send it to the cleaners. So anyway, I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know if I was going to get beat up, beat down. I didn't know it was going to destroy the suit. But I said to this lady parked to my right, I said, can she get in your car? And she said, sure. I said, you get in the car and you two back off. And I started to take off my coat. And the one guy ran, the other guy said, I didn't do anything, and he ran. Now, I don't know if the people behind me all of a sudden developed courage, but they were idling because they were horrified by what was happening. They wanted to do something, especially that lady who let her in the car. They just didn't know how to. I'm a flawed person. I've got my weaknesses. But I'm really good at fighting for people. And I'm really good at protecting folks. And I'm really good at doing the right thing in the public arena where some other folks haven't. And that's what Iowa needs in a governor.
And is there, I guess, when you say, in contrast to your opponents earlier, which do you see as your primary opponent right now?
Well, it's Jack Hatch. If I don't beat Jack Hatch, I don't have to worry about Governor Branstad. Now, make no mistake about it, I want Governor Branstad gone in November, and if Jack beats me, then I want Governor Branstad gone. I will be the first person on November 5th, if he loses, to Jack to take up a fund to buy him a gold watch and a rocking chair. But, you know, My opponent right now is Jack Hatch. If I don't beat Jack, I can't.
And you've mentioned Jack many times. What do you offer that Jack Hatch does not? So.
Well, in Cedar Rapids today, I said I'd rather talk about my ideas than my opponent. I don't want this to be part of the record because I don't want it to seem negative. But here's the most significant difference between Jack Hatch and I.
Second. Okay.
Jack Hatch